When the lights come on, she's ready to rise. Donnelly steps up with faith in her eyes. Puzzle pieces fitting, stars up in the sky. With every prayer and song, she'll make your spirit fly.
She's got the voice that can heal the soul. Singing, gaming, she's on a roll. Star Wars battles to her prayerful light. Donnelly's shining through the night. Shine on, Donnelly's, you light up the way. Singing, praying, bringing hope today.
From puzzles to the force, you're always on. Donnelly's,
You're our shining song. In the game or the prayer, she's standing tall. With every step, she answers the call. Blessings in her heart, light in her soul. With Donnelly's, we're ready to roll.
raise your hands, feel the groove. With her faith and her love, you can't lose.
From the galaxy far to the prayers so deep, Donnelly's is the joy we keep.
Shine on, Donnelly's, you're the light we need.
With every song and every prayer you lead.
From puzzles to the force, you're always on. Donnelly's, you're our shining song. Shine on, Donnelly's. Shine on.
Good morning, happy Friday! How is everybody doing? So we have a new bot. We have a new bot called the Forge Bible Bot that I am so excited about. It will do my go live announcements. I just gotta figure out how to get it to only ping once instead of twice. It will put Bible verses in chat and all that, and it will also, I have it set to where if you use the Please Pray For Me redemption, it will put that not only on the screen briefly, but it will also put it in my Discord in the prayers and praises section. So if you use the Please Pray For Me redemption, whichever one it might be, or if you use !prayer, if you use !prayer or !praise, it will put that in the Discord so that we can all celebrate with you. And if you use !verse, or just type in, let's say, John 3:16, it will pop it up on the screen. So I need to move that. There we go. We'll put that up there in the corner. Right up there. It'll put it up on the screen for us. And you can set your own version. So if you decide you want to be like, let's see, what are the... There we go. Let's see. If you use... translation, translation, you can set your own version to pop up when you do when you type in a verse. So that'll be really, really cool. And we can do trivia, and it'll give you 60 seconds. Let's see. Come on. Because I didn't. There we go. Exclamation point trivia. Ooh, alright guys, what did God create on the 4th day? You guys go ahead, take 60 seconds, answer that while I close my door. Here we go. And while I say good morning to everybody, we're gonna scooch that down just a smidge. There we go. How's it going, Spawn of Kratos? How's it going, West? How's it going, Dusty? I have not forgotten those push-ups. You doing okay, Dusty? Everything okay? We're gonna type in sun, moon, stars, and it's gotta be exclamation point A. Sun, moon, stars. There we go. So if you want to answer, I forgot to say that. Exclamation point A and then sun, moon, stars. So yeah, it'll be really, really cool. I don't know why in my Discord it pinged twice. I need to look at my Discord settings. And see why it would have pinged twice. That is so weird. It's all good. It's all good. Let's see. You are exhausted, still recovering from severe lack of sleep, which is apparently really hard to do when you have a cat. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because it said the exact same thing twice, and I did not go live twice. Oh well, we'll figure that out. I can talk with the guy who made the bot and see what he says and look through those settings. I owe Dusty, I think it's 10 push-ups. So, get the camera set right. Alright, can you guys see? No, not quite. If I bring it around, and go maybe like that. Nope, that's looking up at me. It would probably need to be down here. Maybe this will work. Or we could always scoot it back a bit. I don't know why it's not wanting to work right, but I am doing push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay. Hey, how's it going, Polyglot? Oh, there goes one of my lights as I knock it over. Okay, there we go. Sorry. I promise I did not intentionally drop you guys. There we go. And then... Whew. those were some good push-ups. Sorry, guys. Let's see. How did I get this set up at first? I should not have moved my camera is what I'm learning. Alright, we'll go with that. That's easiest. Perfect. 'Tis not you that I dropped, 'tis the light that I dropped. The light decided, when I brought the camera over, it said, I'm gonna move and bump. Right, according to the bot says, yeah, I told you to post, you told me to post twice. I don't know why, but it did. I dropped the light, no more streaming, no more night. Hey, how's it going, Forged by Grace? How's it going? So far, I am loving Forged BibleBot. Only question that I have is it somehow posted the go live link twice instead of once. Is there a setting that I need to go in and set to fix that? Yeah, in the Discord. I have it set to post that in the live notifications room. And it somehow posted twice, which resulted in double ping. Which isn't that big a deal. It's more just trying to figure out, how do I set this up right? Did I set it up right? And thank you so much for developing this, because it is such a cool thing. I love that it's able to post not just here, but in Discord as well, and it's able to take the prayer request from the chat and put it in my Discord. So if you guys do !pray or !praise, or you use the 1 channel point redemption please pray for me, it'll post it not just here in chat, putting it up on screen for us to read for a minute, but it'll also post it in the Discord. So that is such a cool thing. I love it. You have an in-person interview? Oh, see, I'm so used to in-person interviews that it just, because I never really have gone for any jobs other than ones that are in-person interviews. But I can definitely see where that might be a thing that might not be anyone's favorite. Yeah, sounds good, Forged by Grace. I will definitely let you know, because if it happens tomorrow, then that tells me it's a setting of some kind. Hey, how's it going, Milena Vibes? Thank you so much for the follow. Thank you. Welcome in. We're going to be playing today a wonderful Japanese visual novel called Collar X Malice, and we're going to be going through one of the routes. We are on route number 3, I believe, and each route we're learning more and more about the bad guys in this game, and it is so cool. Such a fun one. You got a queen bee on Fae Farm? That's so cool. You've had in-person, over the phone, and over Zoom. No AI interviews yet, thankfully, right? Ooh, okay. Yeah, definitely gonna do that. Definitely gonna do that after stream, because I got to step I think 12? I think? But this one is a first round interview and it's an hour away. Oh yeah, that definitely is a thing. That definitely is a thing. The setup wizard really just kind of walks you through the basics to get you up and running. There's way more that the bot can do. I love it. I did. There we go. See, we've got Dusty's just for your stress. And if I go over here down to prayer requests and praises, I see that the Forge Bible bot has put
John
that
16:33. I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation. But take heart, I have overcome the world.
I love that! That is so cool! I love that! All this for 9 credit hours a year, and it's also not remote, so your commute's gonna be an hour each way. Oof. Playing Pokemon ZA and gifting hug variants of Pokemon called Alpha that can also be shiny. You're hunting all Alpha Shiny Bird Pokemon in ZA. Very cool. It'll TTS Jesus' quotes in the Bible. I love it. It'll text-to-speech. I absolutely love text-to-speech. So cool. For the left side of your body, shoulder, back, and neck. If you want to try something fun, there's a game you can start using Word Game and then Word Game Start and then Word Game Stop when you're done. It's like the game Words on Stream Scripture Edition. Oh, that is so cool! I want to check that out. Hey, how's it going, Mama Bell? Let's see. Oh, that is so cool! I love that. Okay, so this will be perfect for when we're in, like, BRB. I love that. Ah, okay. Let's see if I can go into properties here. And this will be perfect. This will be perfect for BRB. So I'm going to go into studio mode real quick and add this to BRB. Then I need to do that. Perfect. That is so cool! Yeah, that's totally fair, Soul. That's totally fair. Set the browser source, right? You can change the colors to match your stream as well in the overlay. Oh, that's so cool! I love that! And then you've got... That is super cool! And then I can go Word Game Stop. And then there we go. Perfect. And so then when we go into BRB, I can just remember to set that up. And then we have something for you guys to do while you're, for those of you that aren't in ads and can see it, we've got something for you too. I love that. I love that so much. And you can adjust where things pop up. That is so cool. Ooh, and another B for Spawn of Kratos. So what does everybody have planned today? So today is going to be a fairly chill day. I've got a haircut later this afternoon. And then other than that, I've got to get laundry done. I'm going to get some homework done. It is going to be a fairly chill day today. And I have been going through the Bible recap this year. Oh no worries at all, Forged by Grace. I love learning about this. So glad that you introduced yourself, and I am so glad that we learned about all the different things that this bot can do, because I saw it in Dustin's stream, and I was like, dude, I need this in my life. It is gonna be so good. So good. I cannot wait to see what all it's able to do and to learn more and more about it so I can get the most use out of it. And thank you for developing this, because it is such a powerful and cool bot. He really is such a kind soul and such a funny guy too, like one of the first people that I met on Twitch. He I want to say I met him through Bayo or maybe Kishu. Heck yeah, I do, Spawn. You got laundry and supper, Mama Belle, and Dusty's gonna be going out to eat and shop with Mom. That's awesome. I love that. So I've been going through the Bible recap this year, and yesterday we were reading 2 Samuel 6 and 7, and apologies to anyone with kids who heard me say 6 and 7, because they're probably doing the thing. And we also read 1 Chronicles 17, because that that's the Chronicles account of 2 Samuel 7. And so we were reading, and I was like, what are some takeaways? Because like Forged by Grace, I absolutely love it. I love the encouragement to look for God, not yourself. Because so many times we start looking at where do we find ourselves in the Bible. We look at, how does this apply to my life today? And that's all well and good. But we also need to be looking at, how do we learn about God? Like, what do we learn about God in this? Sounds good. I'll take a look at it after stream. And it's like, what does all of this show about God and his character? Because let's be honest, when we're looking at, Leviticus and Numbers and parts of Deuteronomy, that is where a lot of people give up reading the Bible or trying to get through the Bible in a year, because it doesn't feel like they are learning anything. They feel like it doesn't apply to them. It gets a little boring with all the so-and-so begat so-and-so who begat so-and-so, or this tribe had this many people, this is how you do this particular sacrifice. And it's one of those things where you're like, we don't do that today. How does that apply to us today? Because Jesus came to fulfill the law. And so we're like, looking at that, we're like, but we don't do that anymore. But that doesn't mean that we're not learning about God in there. We're seeing that God is in the details. We're seeing God is worthy of our praise. We're seeing, that He is a God of exactness. Like He is a God who says, this measurement, which means He's in the details. And it's one of those things where, what do we learn about God on those days where it might seem boring, And so that's really helped me in my Bible reading to be able to look for God and what I'm learning about Him and His expectations, His character, and everything about Him. Alrighty, sounds good. I hope you have a wonderful meeting and it's not one that could be an email. Because let's be honest, that happens way more often than it should. And you have a wonderful and blessed day. God bless Forged by Grace. To a certain extent. It depends on what the meeting is about. Ooh, bell peppers, and cauliflower and potatoes. Sounds good, Dusty. Enjoy. Oh, good. Oh, well, we will be definitely praying over that. So we're going to use exclamation point pray for Forged by Grace meeting. May it lead to an amazing opportunity to spread the gospel and gainful employment. There we go! Oh, that's cool. Alright, let's take a look at the OBS overlay here. We've done that.
Hello, sweetie.
Hello, Crimson Rose! How are you? Thank you so much for the follow! There we go! Oh! There we go! It's all good! Great minds think alike! Great minds think alike, Forged by Grace. Sounds good! So you've attended so many meetings that could have been emails and meetings that could have been significantly condensed. That is so fair, Soul. So fair. There are so many times. And I feel like Soul, you and I can especially relate to the fact that that tends to happen a lot more in education. We spend an hour talking about something that could have taken place in like 10 minutes. Bell peppers, cauliflower, and potatoes. Yes! Not necessarily fully late. You're right on time. I usually start at about 5 minutes to 8 my time, which is Arizona, and have the countdown going, so that way I'm on screen by 8. And then there we go. From there. We just go from there, and it's a lot of, we start off just talking and chatting, and then we play some games. So I was actually going over what I learned in the Bible recap yesterday, because I haven't had a chance to do today's reading. That's part of my gonna get that done this afternoon, because I love the Bible recap. It is amazing. And so yesterday in our reading, we were learning about David bringing home the Ark of the Covenant and Uzzah's death, which seems very, very harsh. It seems like such a harsh reaction on God's part, because all Uzzah wanted to do was keep the ark from falling. But when we look in Levitical law, we look at God's expectations, we see that none of those expectations were even followed in the first place. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Because they were supposed to carry the ark with poles. They were not supposed to be putting it on a cart, which is something that I completely missed every single time I read that story. And so then, next thing we know, the ox cart stumbles, the ark looks like it's gonna fall, so Uzzah goes, I'm gonna stop it from falling, touches the ark, and dies. But let's look at what was supposed to happen. Not only was the ark supposed to be carried by poles, who was supposed to be carrying the ark? The Levites. There were absolutely no Levites there. And so this is just like mistake after mistake after mistake. And yeah, it was a definite wake-up call for David and the Israelites as a whole. And so David gets so discouraged that he's like, we're just gonna leave the ark here, and we're gonna just do the we're just gonna leave it here at this house, and we'll come back for it later. And he is angry because he's confused. And how many times has that happened to us, where we react in anger simply because we don't understand what happened? Our confusion can come out and come across as being angry. And that's where David was at. He's like, yo, I'm trying to do this good thing. And God's like, yeah, but you didn't do it the way I wanted you to. You didn't do it the way I asked you to and commanded you to. That's why. And so then he hears, like 3 months later, hey, you know that guy that you left the ark with? Yeah, God has been blessing him. And David's like, oh, that's right. And that kind of snaps him out of his funk. And he goes back to the house, and they do it right this time. And we see in the Chronicles account of this in 1 Chronicles 16 that he also blames the Levites for not going. He was like, hey, I'm at fault because I should have been, I'm the leader. I should have done it right the first time. But also, this is on you guys too. It's a shared blame in that you guys didn't want to come. You guys weren't there in the first place, and you should have been. You guys, we're, as the family of God, we're supposed to call each other out in love when we see each other going astray. Right, Crimson? It's so important that each member of the body of Christ does their role. And when one lacks, it puts a burden on the others. And we're not all meant to be the eye, because like it says in 1 Corinthians, if the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of smell be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of taste be? We're supposed to be the full body of Christ, and that was not shown in Chronicles and Samuel in that moment. And so they go back, they get the ark, and to David's credit, he did one thing right both times, in that he had celebration going. He was like, we're gonna get the tambourines out, we're gonna get the dancing going, it's gonna be a whole thing. It's gonna be like a big old party as we're getting this Ark of the Covenant back home where it belongs. And his wife, Michal, she sees him dancing. Now bear in mind, we tend to have this picture of him being completely unclothed. That's not the case. He just wasn't wearing his royal robes. He was wearing what the common man would have worn. And McCall looks at him, dancing, wearing commoner's clothing, and she goes, David, how embarrassing! You are embarrassing me. And, why would a king wear commoner's clothing? Why? Why are you doing this? Because she is so used, she was King Saul's daughter, so she was used to, there's a difference in the way that royalty dresses and the way the commoners dress. And so she's calling him out for being undignified in her eyes. And he's like, girl, I'll become even more undignified than this. And that is something I love about David, is the way that he responds in humbleness. That's what I love, is anytime he's called out, once it kind of sinks in, because sometimes it takes a second, once he realizes that, then he's like, oh, I need to humble myself in prayer. I need to, reflect and come before God and repent and humble myself. And my first thought upon reading David's response to McCall was the David Crowder song from 2002, and I'll become even more undignified than this. Some might say it's foolishness. I can't remember all the words. And then na 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 na. Hey, na 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 na. Hey. That was literally the first thought that came to mind upon reading that. And then in chapter 7 of 2 Samuel and chapter 17 of 1 Chronicles, David goes before Nathan and who's a prophet, and says, I want to build a temple for the ark to live in. I want God to have a physical dwelling place here on earth. And Nathan, without consulting God, goes, go for it. Go for it. And so then, next thing you know, God pumps the brakes on that very night and says, no, tell David I said, I appreciate the thought. I appreciate the thought. Your intent is good. Your heart is good. But you're not the one to do it. But that doesn't mean that I am not going to bless you. I'm going to make sure that your family line continues. I am going to show steadfast love to your family line. And your son is going to be the one to build the temple. And that is true, that David had too much blood on his hands, yeah. And what I loved is that in the 2 Samuel 7 one, I think it's 2 Samuel 7:13, it says that, yes, I will punish and discipline if he goes astray, but my steadfast love will continue. So what that says to me is that even when we mess up, and I say when, not if, because we are flawed human beings and we're going to mess up. And he has to discipline us. That doesn't mean he loves us any less. All the parents in this chat, when your kid messes up and you have to discipline them, does that mean that you love them any less? No. You assure them, yes, I had to discipline you, but mom still loves you. Dad still loves you. Let's learn from this and move forward. I still love you. You are still my son, my daughter, my child, and I love you. I do not love the choice that you made that resulted in me having to discipline. But that is different from me not loving you as a person, as my child. And so that was one of my takeaways. And my other takeaway from the reading was, yes, we can ask God for things. He is free to say no. And that is a hard answer to swallow. But he sees long term. He sees way, way more than we can. We have a very limited perspective, but he sees eternity. He sees the long-term ramifications. He sees what's happened in the past, and he sees what's going to happen. And because of that, that affects his answers of yes and no and wait. Because maybe the timing just isn't quite right. Maybe that's not part of his plan for you so that you can help somebody else. But he is still going to bless you. He is still going to say, I may not give you this in this moment, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to bless you down the road. That doesn't mean I don't have good things in store for you. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Crimson. He was upset with Eli for never really dealing with the sins of his sons and being passive about it. Because that is essentially what Eli did was kind of go, don't do it again. And that was it. And so true, Crimson. Singleness is not a punishment. It's okay to desire marriage. It may not happen in our timing, but it will, if it's his plan, happen in his. And that was one of the things that Sol and I, last weekend, we went to a singles event. It was a Christian singles event. And that was one of the things that really stood out to me, was that both singleness and marriage are a gift. Let's not squander them. It's been 84 years! Ooh, the connection in Luke 7, yes. Why does Windows have an option to turn off, turn off the touchpad? I guess if you got something where it would be like you went from touchpad to keyboard and mouse, maybe? I don't know. And that's a good point too, Dreamer, calling the priestly clothes, because he was wearing a linen ephod, which is what the priest would have worn. Calling that common? Come on, McCall. So if you guys have any prayer requests, we're going to transition into a time of prayer. Oh, logically you understand why that's there, but it's such a dumb thing to have to troubleshoot remotely. Oh, that would be so hard. That would be so frustrating to troubleshoot remotely. Aw, thank you, Crimson! I do my best. It's one of those things where it was like, that's how he made me, but it's also kind of how I was raised as well. It's like that mixture of nature and nurture. Yeah, mixed thoughts on how it was handled, but at least the churches in the area tried something. Exactly. Part of me wishes it had been a little more community focused. Because it started off very community focused. And then once the sermons started, then it became clear, oh, this is where they're going, you know? And was cool that it was a collaborative effort. Yes, that I loved. I loved that it was like, what, 30-something churches? I don't know if it's necessarily that, Crimson, as much as it's... For me personally, it's been more of a... Why are you still single? Like, it hasn't happened in the timing that it happened for me, so why hasn't it happened for you? But also, you have so much time on your hands. Here, be in kids ministry. Here, be on this. Here, be on this. You know? Like, it feels like they rely so much on the singles because they feel like we have so much more time. And we're like, no, we have just as much or just as little time as you guys. And my thought has always been, the one thing that always stuck with me, like that well-meaning bit of advice of... Exactly! You hear married women who say, I don't get time with him. You're like, invite your kids into that time. Take them with you. Yeah, shoot, you're married without kids and still get that, right? And like the thing is, like, I remember listening to this podcast and it was, oh man, one day, like it was a Friday and I was sitting there with nothing to do because all my married friends or all my dating friends were out doing, you know, their date nights and I had, you know, so they weren't available. And next thing I know, I'm able to do, like, one of my single friends calls me, and 4 hours later, we've done a 4-hour Bible study, and we couldn't have done that if we were married. And I'm like, okay. Sure, we might not do 4-hour Bible studies with our gal pals, but that doesn't mean that we can't spend time with God. That doesn't mean that we can't serve. Like, dude. It's like, there's the... Think about all the things you're able to do now that you're single that you can't once you're married. And I'm like, half the things, if not more, that you're listing as things I can't do once I get married, I can still do if I communicate with my spouse. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can't necessarily always go on a spur-of-the-moment trip. I'll have to ask hubby, you know, hey, do we have anything? Are you cool with it if I go to Pennsylvania, for example, for a week? Are you cool if I join, you know, that kind of thing? Like, it's communicating. It's communicating, making sure schedules align, making sure it's in budget, which is stuff you have to think about when you're single too. You know what I mean? You're just lucky that no one's pushing it when, about when you're gonna have kids, because they aren't getting polite answers. Totally fair. As singles, we can use the, well, I'm not married yet, so I can't step into serving or ministry because I'll do that when you're married. And then when we get married, now I can't do it because kids. Oh, I see what you're saying, Crimson. I've always seen more the opposite, and that could be because... just because of the churches that I've been at. But, I don't know. You very much appreciate that it was a problem that the capital church, or capital C church, leadership across the board as a problem, or saw as a problem and made efforts to improve. Exactly. Honestly, you love it when your wife spends time with her friends, because then you can go camping or break your network or something. Exactly. But the point is, you know, there's still that communication there of, hey, hun, do you need a weekend to, you know, go camping or break your network? Have fun with your tech stuff? Cool, I'm gonna go spend time with my friends. A kingdom husband will be pushing you out of your comfort zone into what he sees God has for you too. That is so true. That is so true. And communication is so key. They would very much benefit from more input from actual singles, especially introverted ones and older ones. But it's a start. Exactly. Your conversation's literally, hey, I want to go camping. You want to have a girls' night? I love it. Exactly. And that, like, you're still able to get that semi-spur of the moment, but just with a little more communication. And half the time when I see, and maybe it's just the circles that I'm in, but half the advice I get is it'll happen when you least expect it, which I get. It'll happen when you stop looking, which I get. Think of all the things you can do when you're single. Like, some of it just never fully sat right with me, Like, I get that it's well-meaning. Exactly. Backhanded insults. Yeah, because what ended up, how the event worked is it started off very community oriented. It was go sit at a table with people that you don't know. Go ahead and mingle with them. Okay, now we're going to have some worship time. And then it was, all right, guys, you've got a bingo sheet underneath your chair. Basically run around the room and try and fill in as many as you can. And it was all like getting to know you things, like find somebody left-handed, hi! Find someone who's never been outside the US, find somebody who's never been on an airplane. Like, it was all that was all community oriented. And then they had the first message, and then they had dinner, and then they brought up the second speaker, if I remember correctly. And during that time, we were finishing up dinner, and then they were like, all right, guys, write a letter to your future spouse. And I was like, like, what am I gonna write? I don't even know who he is. And so it was very much just generic for me, like praying that you're growing in your faith, and praying that when the time is right we meet, kind of a thing. And then it went from that to, all right, let's do a survey, see where we can improve and what we did right, kind of a thing. And then they were like, all right, so we had to do the survey now so that you can't tell us how much, and jokingly saying this, you can't tell us how much you hated this last activity. And everybody laughed. And the last activity was you had to go around to people of the opposite gender and answer 3 questions. It was, what's something you can talk about for hours? What's something not very many people know about you? And then, what's something that's helped you feel close to God lately? Unfortunately, there was such a gender discrepancy. There were definitely more girls than guys. So, like, half the girls ended up almost becoming wallflowers, because as soon as a guy was free after the 2 minutes of talking to that one person, somebody else always swooped in. And so, yeah. I wish it had been more focused on community building too. I agree, it felt kind of very surface level, like it was starting to get to where it was going to start getting less surface level-y, and then they took a hard right. But yeah, very good guest speakers. Oh, that would have been a great idea, Soul. Because, like, then if they had said at the beginning, hey guys, I want you guys to think on these 3 questions throughout the night, we would have at least had something, rather than having to come up with something spur of the moment. It did feel at the very end very speeded 80. You met your first serious girlfriend at a swing dancing club? I love it. So we're going to transition over into a time of prayer. You can use exclamation point pray, exclamation point praise, or the channel point redemption, please pray for me. And I'll look up partway through to make sure that I have not, missed anything. And then we will dive into the world of the game. Alrighty. Lord, right now we just bring this stream before you. We ask that you help us to be a light. Help somebody have learned something new about you today. Help us as we go out into the world to just shine your light so brightly, Lord. I ask that you be with each and every person here. Be with Dusty and just lower his stress levels, Lord. I ask that you be with Soul as she and I are finishing out the semester, that you help us both to finish strong, that you give her the ability to get the program to do what she wants it to do. Be with her dad, Lord, and just help him as he's going through these treatments. Help him be able to fight off this cancer, Lord, and give him strength. Keep both of them close to you, Lord. I pray over Zach that you touch and heal the left side of his body, his shoulder, back, and neck, Lord, that you just take away that pain. I ask, Lord, that just right now he feels a lessening of that pain. I pray over Forged by Grace that he has discernment and wisdom for this potential ministry partnership opportunity. And I think he said it's also a possible employment opportunity, that if it be your will, you just give him this opportunity and let him know through wisdom and discernment if this is what you have in your plans for him, Lord. I ask that you be with all the amazing Christian streamers here on Twitch, Lord. Be with Pastor Dustin, be with Wolfler and Zelda and Hype and Lotu, Save the Lost, Kishu, Spark, Casey. I just ask that as we strive to be this light in a dark place, that you help us to shine bright. Give us the words to say, Lord. Give Lotu and her family a miracle, Lord, and be with her baby girl. I pray for Save the Lost, that you just continue to be in his unspoken, Lord. Touch and heal his body as well, Lord. I ask that you just be with anybody else who is struggling physically, whether illness or injury, that you just give them healing. I pray for anybody who's struggling mentally, that you just help us have the strength to keep going, Lord. I ask that as we go through our days, that you put one person on our heart and mind to pray for, somebody who needs to know you. Give us those opportunities and give us eyes to see those opportunities to share the gospel. I pray that we just move forward, always seeking your wisdom and your guidance, Lord. Let us look before we leap. Let us pray over any big decisions. Let us see your hand at work. Give us a great time of fellowship today, and in your name I pray. Amen. All right. Perfect timing for those ads to start soon. Oh, yes, that's a good one. Lord, we also just want to come before you and bring our pastors and churches before you, that as they get ready to preach your word this weekend, that you give them the words to say, that you give them the ability to be used and to lift up the body of Christ so that we can shine your light both in our church and outside the church into our communities. Amen. Unfortunately, those few minutes are the best opportunity you get to really talk with anyone. It did feel very speed datey. Yeah, I completely agree. So we're about to hit an ad break here. I am gonna go ahead and take a quick bio break. So we're gonna go into the BRB screen, and I am gonna start the word game for you guys. Be back in just a minute. Alright, you guys. We're gonna go ahead and end the word game. Congratulations, Crimson! You win! Alright, we're gonna go here to just chatting. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the music. And then we go to game capture software so I can get my Elgato up and running. We're gonna change the category. Come on, I know you're on. There we go. Perfect. Alright. And then we need to close that because we saved it, so we should be fine. Gonna go to the game screen. You want to hear depth too? Yeah. For me, that's more what it is versus that I talk too much, because I do talk a lot. But at the same time, I'm like, I love the small talk. I really do. But I want to be able to, I take a little bit longer to form friendships. It got mad at the words shut up because it can't take context into account. Right? Bot is like super sensitive. So we're gonna load up the game. And I'm so with you, Blessed. Depending on the topic, I am like, you cannot get me to shut up. You had no idea this was a Switch game? You thought it was a computer game? Oh! I don't know. Is it available on the computer still? I don't think it is. Yeah, I'm with you there, Soul. I love quality time. And if they had just given us more mingling time, that would have been great. And they also had these cards, like these square-shaped cards on the table that everybody thought was just like either decoration or maybe like something to put your, like one of those cup, like coasters or something, more for like decoration. And on the back of those cards, which they didn't tell us until nearly an hour in, that those were conversation starters. And we had no idea. You pulled a 30-minute presentation from your butt on Saturday about how about Star Wars super weapons and why the Death Star was the worst. Oh man. There is someone who's showing interest and does love the Lord, and he said, "You are passionate about God, but I need to get ready for bed." Right? That's the fun part, is when you don't realize just how long you've been talking, and next thing you know, you're going, I need to go to bed. I am tired. The next day, I was listening to the news on TV while making breakfast for Kazuki.
7月に起きた X デー事件の一つと言われるストーカー男性傷害致死事件の裁判は依然として難航しており
Was it justified self-defense or not? That point was still undetermined. No progress, huh? I turned off the gas stove and transferred the omelet to a plate. Kazuki, breakfast is ready. You should eat it before it gets cold. I waited for a while, but no answer came. With a sigh, I returned to the living room to get ready to go to work. Oh, about Gandhi and how he's secretly Jack the Ripper? I would be interested in the evidence for that. You'll create your snooze button for an extra 5 minutes. For me, it's more, I take a little bit to get to the point where I'm comfortable enough with you to go into the more deep stuff and form that bond. Well, not even necessarily that. I take a little bit, it's more I take longer to recognize any romantic feelings. because I've always pictured myself with somebody I was friends with first. And so it's hard to get that we could potentially be a match vibe in 3 minutes or less. When I get to the station, the first thing I should do is read more about the July incident in the database. I want to speak to detectives who were on the case at the time, but they might get suspicious if I approach them without a legitimate reason. Still, it's best to ask someone who was there. I walked, thinking about my next steps. Ah! I wasn't paying attention as I walked, and I bumped into someone.
いってえな。気をつけろ。
I'm sorry.
ん？あれあれ、結構可愛いじゃん。よかったら俺たちと遊びに行かない？
Run, Ichika, run! I'll pass. I'm on my way to work.
そんなのサボっちゃえばよくない？
I just walked into a load of trouble. It might be quicker to show I'm a police officer, but if they had some animosity towards the police, it would invite even further trouble. I'm in a hurry. When I just tried to push past the two insistent men, one of them grabbed my arm.
ぶつかっておいてさ、その態度はないんじゃないの？
Very much so, Zach. Very much so. That's fair, Crimson. That's fair. What is your intention in wanting to know and pursue me? If there's a we, we'll see. If there's a we, we'll see. Nah, I don't play with the other's heart or mind. Just be friends or acquaintances. Exactly. And that was one thing they talked about, was us women need to be able to communicate our feelings. You know? Because, like, if we aren't feeling anything romantic and just wanting to focus on friendship, let the guy know. You know what I mean? So that way, because neither of us are mind readers. Yes, consistency too. It takes considerable effort in planning, not to mention the budget, but don't need anything fancy. More than anything, you just need time, consistency, and opportunity in the first place. He raised his voice, and then... Is Okazaki on the case? The man let go of my arm with a genuine yelp of pain, unlike earlier. Huh? Yes, he came to the rescue! Okazaki? Okazaki had suddenly appeared from behind, twisting the man's arm. He casually sent the man flying away with one hand. That is a good one. Like, for me, I'm not necessarily sure that that's something like first meeting or first date. I think that's something once you've kind of established, yes, we're going in the direction of something serious. That's when you start kind of bringing in, you know, kids into the equation. Okazaki dodged the punch from the side with ease, and sent the second man hurtling into a wall with the kick. He effortlessly threw the third man, who rushed at him from behind. His movements were so fluid, I thought I was watching a dance performance.
ダメだよ。女の子を困らせたら。
You weren't even dating at the time you had that conversation? Interesting. That's very bold of you, West. I like it. That is fair, Crimson. That is fair. You couldn't help but shake your head on the survey when they asked how often you'd be interested in attending such an event, and most of the answers amounted to only a handful of times. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And it's like if you saw a future with your wife at that time before you even started dating, if you saw, you know, down the road, like, this is the one, then yeah, get that conversation out and in the open. You know? And that is true too, Crimson. It's selfish to marry someone when you don't have that same family desire. Like, for me, once I kind of start getting serious with the guy, we're gonna have a talk about adoption. Because that's where my heart is. Okazaki gently scolded them without showing any sign of needing to catch his breath. The men scrambled away, each trying to outpace the other.
いちかちゃん、大丈夫だった？
Okazaki turned to me with a look of genuine concern. Thank you very much. You saved me.
君に怪我がなくてよかった。
But what are you doing here? It seems I'd mischaracterized him. Rather than appearing and disappearing like a ghost, it was more like he was always around. Don't tell me he's like this with everyone.
これから仕事？
Yes.
実は俺も新宿署に用があったんだ。
And that is fair, Crimson. I think for me, that timing hasn't necessarily changed. In that I've always kind of pictured the... Once I start realizing I can see a future with this person, that's when I'm going to bring it up. Like, once things start pointing in the direction of this is the one, or most likely the one, it's kind of going in a more serious direction. Like, definitely not a first couple dates situation. You know? That's like once we've talked out some other things, we've gone on a few more than a couple dates, you know. That's a little bit further down the road conversation. Yeah. I'm hopeful, Soul, that some of those events will be more of like board game nights versus, you know, the more speed datey stuff. Huh. What a coincidence. It seemed that I had been overly self-conscious.
ね、どうせだったら一緒に行こう。
Saying that, he turned to me and offered me his hand for some reason. Why the hand? I just stared at it for a moment. Then, oh! Is this Tim the Terrible Typist? Is this Tim the Terrible Typist right here? Proverbs 31:3. Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. Huh.
君は危なっかしいからね。手をつないで歩こう。
It's dangerous for you. Let's walk holding hands. Eh? No, thank you. It's not any safer this way. Tim, are you okay? They look nothing alike, right? In response to me saying that, he simply grabbed my hand even more tightly and began tugging me as he walked.
君の手、少し冷たいね。
Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay. Okazaki? He was acting like this was nothing, but he was unwilling to let go of my hand.
もう12月だもんな。俺は寒いの平気なんだけど、吉成くんは辛いって言ってた。
Yeah, and that's fair because, you know, it's one of those things where we should have enough, you know, self-worth. You know, that's a good point too, because if every woman that he goes up to, he's seeking that validation, then you're like, but wait a minute, you know? It's a self-esteem thing, I think. I was sure that I was signaling my displeasure, but Okazaki ignored it and kept talking. He really was stubborn. Isn't it a little hard to be a bodyguard while you're holding hands? Got dust in my eyes.
これは
Sorry,
敬
guys.
語のためじゃないよ。ただ俺がつなぎたいだけ。
There we go. I hope that'll do it. I see. When he said it that assertively, I found myself stupidly unwilling to resist for some reason. This will be embarrassing if someone sees this.
あんまりぼんやり歩いてたらダメだよ。人にぶつかったら危ないし、さっきみたいな人にまた絡まれちゃう。
Huh? If he had seen me walking while I was spaced out. So he was tailing me after all? Am I under surveillance? Okazaki smiled in a comforting way. Maybe my doubts had shown on my face.
別に後をつけたりしてないよ。たまたま見つけただけだから安心して。
I'm sorry.
いいよ。でも本当は許されるんだったら四六時中後をつけて守ってあげたいぐらい。
What?
君ってしっかりして見えるけど意外と隙があるから心配なんだ。
I appreciate the thought, but I must decline your offer. Knowing Okazaki, if I accepted, he'd seriously follow me around 24 hours a day. Yeah, those are valid. Those are valid. And like, for me, that would be more of a second or third date. Maybe? I don't know what, like if, I guess I would just ask it when it comes, you know what I mean? But yeah, I definitely see, like, get those non-negotiables out earlier than later.
じゃあ今のところはやめておくね。でもさっきみたいなことがまたあったら本気で警護を考えちゃうかも。
Okay, I'll be careful. I'll try not to show you any openings next time.
それはそれで少し残念だな。
Okazaki smiled gently as always. I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. Somehow I seemed to allow him to do whatever he wants and let him dictate everything. We'd only met a few days ago, but it felt like every time we met, he was leading me around. Ooh, I would say Pocopia. Yes, I agree with you there, Crimson. Someone who has good, godly friends. Yes. And somebody who's willing to let you meet their friends and family. Because if they're not willing to let you meet their friends or family, that's kind of a red flag.
Okazaki には気をつけろ。隙を見せない方がいい。
Ooh, very cool, Spawn. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that you have an outside perspective to see red flags you might miss, and that also that they don't demonize. recalled what Yanagi said. I know that I have to be cautious, but his palm was warm. So were some of his smiles and words. I didn't think they were coming from ill will.
いちかちゃん、どうかした？
While I was mulling it over, I startled as he examined my face. I was so startled that I suddenly gripped his hand tightly. When I did, he returned the grip, smiling all the while. Suddenly, I just felt even worse. Your hand. Ooh. Let's see. My natural inclination says this. I'm gonna go with that. I wonder if he's used to this. Do you do this to other people? I regretted saying that. That was rude of me. But Okazaki didn't seem offended, and he just smiled calmly.
しないよ。こんなこと誰にでもしたら怒られちゃう。
So he only doesn't care about getting me mad? For some reason, I found myself unable to say that aloud.
こういうことするのは仲良くなりたい人だけだから。
Huh? For a second, my heart skipped a beat, but then I remembered something. He also said that he wanted to be closer with Yanagi and the others. So this wasn't something special that he was doing for me. Once I realized that, I was shocked. I also felt some unkind feelings bubbling up. So, you do this with Yanagi and the other people at the office? I just meant to tease him, but Okazaki seemed to think about it seriously.
あの中で手をつないでないと危なそうで心配なのはタケルくんぐらいかな。
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Making sure that you have accountability. Oh, really? I didn't think he'd be the type to need that.
タケルくんは頭脳派でしょ？いざという時は一番弱いと思うよ。
That might indeed be true, but he'd probably be mad if I ever asked.
でも勝手に手を引っ張ったらすごく怒られそうだからやらないかな。
Yeah, a wise decision. I agreed when I imagined Sasuzuka's face. While I walked with Okazaki, I occasionally glanced at our hands. My embarrassment slowly eroded as I normalized this behavior, and it was replaced with relief. So he really was just worried about me. Obviously, I had been a little scared when those men surrounded me. As a cop, it felt kinda lame, but I wasn't sure I could skillfully exit that situation. Now, though, I felt calm. It's thanks to Okazaki. Maybe he had noticed how I was feeling and reached out to me to help, while acting like it was for his own satisfaction. Maybe I've wronged him. Regardless of Okazaki's true intentions, it was true that he had protected me. Still, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that I was betraying the police. Was I still someone worth protecting? Maybe I've taken advantage of his kindness. Perhaps I had used his stubbornness as an excuse and ultimately failed to reject his advances because deep down, a part of me wanted to trust him. When I was with him, I could relax, just a little, and not think about my collar, the X-Day crimes, and my precarious situation. I'm really not cautious enough, am I? I'm fine now. We were in sight of the police station now, so I broke free from his hand. If my colleagues saw me now, I had no idea how they would react. A breeze whipped through my warmed hand, and the cool sensation now made me feel a tinge of loneliness.
ちょっと残念だけど、誰かに見られたら困っちゃうもんね。
Maybe he really was concerned for me. He was worried about appearances, so I guess he hadn't done it out of selfishness. It was hard to tell what this man was thinking, but I sensed his actions stemmed from goodwill.
ごめんね、無理やり引っ張ってきちゃって。
No, you were just worried. Thank you for holding my hand.
言ったでしょ。俺がつなぎたかっただけ。
Okazaki kindly smiled, still pretending to be obstinate. I returned his words with a slight smile and started to cut across the street when it was green. Then... Uh-oh. Suddenly, a commotion broke out around us. Huh? Seeing Okazaki reach for his holster, I also readied myself. I looked over and saw... smoke. A fire?
火事？やばくない？すぐ近くじゃん。ねえ、ちょっと携帯見て。また動画サイトで変なの流れてる。
Oh no, it's another X day.
やだ、なんか燃えてる。これも X デーのやつなの
？Yeah, I completely agree, Crimson and Soul. I completely agree. Having that accountability, because addiction lies in wait for the day you think you have it beat. And then it comes back full force. So having that accountability that can recognize the signs and being able to recognize the signs yourself. Definitely. Definitely. I don't know, Zach. We'll have to see. Right. I quickly started to take out my phone, but I could hear a voice already playing on the bystanders' phones. That was...
カウントダウン。また X デー事件が起きたのかもしれない。
I hurriedly searched for the video on my phone. It showed a fire burning in a familiar-looking park. I'll call it in. Yes, I'm close to the place in the video now. Fire in the residential area near Shinjuku PD. I'm en route to the scene.
わかった。捜査本部に通達する。俺もすぐに向かうからな。気をつけろよ。
Yes, sir.
俺も行くよ。
Okazaki nodded firmly and we set off. When you chose your bridesmaids, you chose them with such intention and they knew it. You will be the ones I call when having struggles to pray for. And I knew they would never hold grudges against my husband, and whenever I thought of you'd be happy with another, I'd take it to the Lord, but then call my girls, and they would pray and lead me to scripture. I love that! The fire had broken out in a park within the residential area. It had just started burning, so firefighters and police, hadn't arrived yet. Instead, neighbors and bystanders were gathering around the park to watch. Police! It's dangerous, everyone! Please, stay back! Okazaki and I raised our voices as we pushed our way through the crowd to the source of the fire. You just tore down some of the blocks behind your house on Pocopia? Oh no! You wanted more room to add a farm and more leaf houses? So it was intentional or an accident? Sounds more intentional. What looked like a human figure had been left in front of the restrooms. Huh?
待って。
As soon as I tried to run over to the figure, Okazaki quickly pulled me back.
近づくと危ない。
Huge thing is to be and meet someone with humility before the Lord and will submit to another body member to ask for help. Exactly. Oh good, it was intentional. Good. Is it looking like you want it to? But somebody's in there.
火の勢いが普通じゃない。匂いからして周囲にガソリンが撒かれてる。それもかなり広範囲に。密閉空間じゃないから爆発の恐れはないけど、火元の周りに紙束みたいな燃えかすが大量に散らばってるのは見えるよね。トイレ内にまだ何かが、それこそ爆発物が仕掛けられてる可能性もある。火の中心にいる人物が全く動かないのはもう息絶えてるか、一酸化中毒で意識不明のどちらか。どう
Okazaki was incredibly calm and he coolly analyzed the situation. He was probably right too, but what if it's possible that we can still save them? I frantically looked around for a fire extinguisher, but I couldn't see anything of the like. Pouring water on a gasoline fire was a bad idea, but maybe I could smother the fire. As I hesitated, the fire spread to a nearby tree and grew fiercer. We have to do something! We have to help! In my confusion, I tried to approach the fire again, but Okazaki's grip only grew stronger. Let me go!
今君にできることは何もない。
So is there something you can do? Okazaki, I'm sure you could save...
俺にもあの人を助けることはできない。他にしなくちゃいけないことがあるから。
What other priorities? What could possibly be more important than saving that person?
いちかちゃん、冷静になって。
Lots of dead grass because you just started. Doesn't look like a fire we could smother, right? This is like a fast growing blaze. This might have been the first time I'd ever heard Okazaki sound angry. I stiffened in surprise.
落ち着いて。ここには他にもたくさんの人たちがいる。彼らの安全を優先させるのが俺たちの仕事だよ。今君がしなくちゃいけないことがある。君にしかできないことがあるんだよ。
Huh? I guess we'll prioritize the evacuation? That sounds like the one that would... Right? Because going and saving sounds like a great way for her to end up dead. So we're gonna prioritize the evacuation. This is what I can do now. After Okazaki helped me regain my composure, I assessed the situation around me. Right? Too early in the route for that. I realized I wouldn't be able to put the fire out by myself. The priority now was to evacuate the local residents to prevent secondary casualties. It hurt to turn away from what might be a dying person, but I couldn't lose sight of my duty. As Spock always says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. I'll lead the evacuation.
大丈夫。俺もついてるから。
Donna chose wisely. My hands were still trembling, so Okazaki held them both tightly.
君はちゃんと状況が見えてる。今は俺たちにで。
Yes! We each took a part of the crowd and led them out of the park.
火のそばには近づかないでください。ここは危険です。早く避難を。
Get out of the park, everyone! Stay calm so that you don't trip. Then some of the cinders in the air landed near my feet. They looked like the papers around the victim, but I noticed they were fragments of a written note. Huh? The note was apparently written with very shaky handwriting. I love you so much, I want to kill you? What? The The scrap quickly burned to ashes. Charred paper has been added to materials. Right? Like, to me, that makes absolutely no sense. Chapter 2. X-Day Incident Report. Report of the X-Day incidents. Why does that feel like Kronk going, right, the poison. Kuzco's poison. The poison chosen for Kuzco. Poison chosen specifically to kill Kuzco. Kuzco's poison. It shouldn't make sense. July 1st, a man who had been obsessively stalking a woman was killed by a passerby. Yeah, exactly. That's not a sentiment that should make sense to anyone. The assailant was arrested at the scene, but circumstantial evidence and witness accounts suggested it was a justified act of self-defense. However, the assailant was arrested as a suspect for the May X-Day crime and is awaiting trial. He's currently being held in jail. After the incident, the Roman numeral 6 and an Adonis coin were found at the victim's residence. For this reason, the assailant and the woman being stalked were suspected of having Adonis ties, but no evidence has been found to support this. In early August, Adonis uploaded a statement which claimed this incident as part of the countdown. That wobbly voice. Ugh.
女性は昔からストーカー被害を訴えていたにもかかわらず警察は取り合わなかった。我々アドニスはこの悲しみを見過ごせず被害者に代わり裁きを下しました。X デーへのカウントダウン6、そして今月はカウントダウン5、近々再び裁きが下ります。
This incident would be well known to the public. They would know the threat was amongst themselves. The plan proceeded to the next stage. People would focus on the threat and realize that the everyday malice in the world is real. It was a threat to their own lives. Right? That one is easily one of the eeriest. That is like top 3. It was believed the occasional tumult within our organization would pose no obstacle to the plan. The countdown to the reveal would march on relentlessly. The afternoon after the park fire, I was at my desk answering non-stop phone calls. There were many Shinjuku residents who felt unsafe because of the repeated incidents, and the volume of calls had increased. I'm very sorry. This matter is currently under investigation. That said, little of the information coming into SRCPO was of any use, and most of it was not directly related to the incidents. Ooh, there you go, Spawn. Sounds like that should work. People reported seeing ghosts at the scene or thought the fire affected their phone reception. There's no helping it considering the atmosphere these crimes have created. This morning, firefighters had shown up promptly to extinguish the blaze. The only damage was the tree near the fire's center, and there were no injuries. The victim at the heart of the fire had died, however. From what Mochida had overheard so far, The on-scene investigation had ruled out suicide. It was most likely a homicide. Oh, that makes sense. Phew. When the incoming calls finally slowed down, I sighed and rubbed my eyes. I had gone around collecting statements and reassuring the neighbors, so it was afternoon by the time I returned to the station. So it was an next-day crime after all? The gruesome scene from this morning replayed itself in my head. I had watched someone burn to death, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was struck by the cruelty that could rob someone of their life so easily. There was an announcement video too. If they also find a coin, how could they do that 2 days in a row? If Okazaki hadn't been there, I would have really been entirely useless at the scene. It had all been a shock to me, and I still hadn't fully recovered my composure. There was a commotion in the building. I immediately spotted the reason. Section Chief Morioka and Commissioner Minagishi from Investigation Section 1 were both here. This police station was the headquarters for the X-Day investigation, so there were people from police headquarters posted here. However, SRCPO personnel didn't generally interact with investigators unless they were invited to a meeting. So the office would be stirred up by the arrival of such highly ranked officers. What in the world is going on? Hi! I couldn't believe my ears. He came in here and asked for me, by name. While I was panicking, Mochida quickly positioned himself behind my desk. I quickly stood up and straightened my posture, confused. Yes, sir. I'm Ichika Hoshino of the Special Regions Crime Prevention Office. Right? They are such cool characters.
お前は今朝の事件発生当時、現場の近くにいたそうだな。
Yes, sir.
その時のことを詳しく聞きたいのですが、今お時間大丈夫ですか？
Oh,
私は星野の指導担当の持田正信です。よろしければ私も同席させていただけますか
Mochida came to my rescue as I was tongue-tied with anxiety. However, Morioka shook his head no after a moment's consideration.
まずはこいつ一人に話を聞きたい。場所を移すからついてこい。
Yes, sir. My throat had dried out, and that was the only response I could manage. They brought me to the X-Day Investigations headquarters. Everyone else seemed to be out. It was empty. The room felt very big to me when I entered, and I grew increasingly nervous, wringing my hands tightly.
で、今朝の事件についてなぜあの場所にいた？
Huh? I thought they were going to ask me about the fire itself, so I was caught off guard by the unexpected line of questioning. I just happened to be on the way to work.
SP と共に行動していたと聞いたか？
I ran into him on the way. Okazaki, the SP officer, said that he also had business at Shinjuku Station today.
特防のお前がどういう経緯で警護課の人間と知り合ったんだ？
Huh? Circumstances? I just know him.
その知り合いとは？
I began to doubt myself under the rapid-fire barrage of questions. Perhaps noticing that I had gone pale, Minagishi interrupted with a troubled expression.
森岡さん、質問ばかりではかわいそうですよ。ちゃんと説明してあげなければ。今朝の事件、現場トイレの壁に ペンキで書かれたローマ数字の1が残されていたこと。残されていたコインの鑑定結果から X デー事件であることが確定しました。
The autopsy had found the victim's cause of death to be carbon monoxide poisoning. When I had found the body, the victim had already perished.
これらの点から今回の件に彼女が直接関わっているとは考えにくい。ですから、そう頭ごなしに疑ってかかるのはよくありませんよ。彼女も怯えているじゃないですか。
They do suspect me after all, then.
別に犯人だと
I love Minagishi.
嫌な感が働いただけだ。
Morioka! Why? Why do you have a bad feeling? You've literally just met me. With that, Morioka leaned forward as if searching for something in my eyes.
X デイ事件について何か知っているんじゃないか。それも俺たちが知らないようなこと。
Feeling the cold collar against my skin, I instinctively went silent. When I did, Morioka sighed deeply and quietly continued.
柳愛知を知っているな。あいつは俺の元部下だ。お前が柳たちと交流を持っていることは把握している。
Did he tell you?
いや、違う。あいつはそういうことを簡単に漏らす人間だ。
Morioka bluntly remarked on his old co-worker.
あいつらに関する情報は入ってくる。あっちが望まなくて。
What does that mean?
柳とはどうやって知り合った？
I met him on patrol. I had him show me ID just to be certain. I was curious, so I looked him up in the database and saw that he was a former officer. After talking for a bit, I learned that he was independently investigating the X-Day incidents. I'm just keeping an eye out as SRCPO so that they don't get hurt. They're civilians now. I had no idea how well they'd fall for my bald-faced lie. To begin with, someone they knew to be as cautious as Yanagi wouldn't tell someone he'd only met a few times that he was investigating X-Day. Morioka just stared into my eyes for a while, expressionless. I didn't know what he was thinking. That's a fair point, Soul. That's a fair point. Water that grass, Spawn! Water that grass! Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Morioka didn't pursue the subject of Yanagi and changed the topic. Yes, I thought it was necessary for the safety of the public that I be informed. Morioka and Minagishi shared a look after my plainly stated reply.
意外と芯が強そうだな。まあ、柳たちのことはいい。今は見過ごして。
では、本題に移りましょう。
Oh, that wasn't even the main topic. I shifted in my chair, bracing myself for the big issue.
7日に起きた X デー事件は予告動画が新宿署のみに送られてきました。我々は場所の特定が早まることを恐れ、動画の公開範囲を絞ったのだと考えました。
Yay! Good job, Spawn! They appeared to have arrived at the same conclusion as Yanagi's team.
ですが今朝の事件は
Exactly.
動画をネット上で公開するのとほぼ同時に白昼堂々の犯行です。聞き込みの結果、現場近くで不審な女性を見たという証言もあるのですが、まだ裏は取れていません。
Two crimes had occurred in 2 days, but it looked like the investigation wasn't going as desired.
カウントダウンがゼロになるのを目前にして、奴らの動きが荒くなっているのは確か
な。アドニスは複数人で構成されたテロ組織です。これまでの事件の犯行も複数人によるものと断定されています。おそらくですが、組織の上の人間が駒を切り捨て始めたのではないか。
Yeah, you know, Soul, that could be it. He's better at, and also he's just a much calmer personality as is. And so when he has concerns, he's able to calmly bring them in and be like, yeah, this is what's going on. Whereas Morioka, he's more the, I have this concern and I must have answers now! I love that. Ditto's like, what's a celebrate? What's that? Maybe the group was confident that their peons wouldn't betray the organization. Or perhaps the low-level criminals didn't know anything about Adonis to begin with. I wondered which was the case. It's all in my report. Understood. Gasoline had already been poured all over the scene when I'd arrived, and I couldn't approach the source of the fire. Bundles of paper were also scattered around the victim, and I found a burning scrap of a very strange note. I told them all this as politely as possible.
その紙片の内容から考えると、やはり菅原理香が怪しいですね。
She has no idea what it is, so you had to ask Professor Tangrowth. He apparently is a professor because he's wearing his owner's glasses on his chest. Right? That's a weird place for glasses to go. Rika Sugawara? That was the name of the woman who had been stalked in the July incident. Why would her name come up now?
この程度の情報、警察内部にいれば、いずれは誰でも得られるものですよ。
Yeah, that's a very fair assessment. Minagishi is very, very calm. And he's able to keep the, like, he has his moment where he shows his passion. But Morioka is definitely more outwardly passionate. Minagishi calmly continued.
焼死体のため、被害者の身元確認には時間がかかっています。ただ、我々は容疑者および被害者ともに7月の事件に関連性があると見ています。
Why?
予告動画の内容からですよ。
Speaking of which, I hadn't watched the video yet. I had run straight to the scene of the crime and was busy filing a report ever since I got to the station, so I hadn't had the time. That's just a convenient excuse, though. The truth was, I'd been so shocked by what I saw that I didn't feel like watching the video. Pathetic for a police officer. I'm sorry to say I haven't seen the video yet. When I answered honestly, Minagishi didn't seem upset. He just nodded.
では、ここで見てみますか?
Alright, we've got an ad break coming up soon. Minagishi opened the laptop computer and turned it toward me.
過剰な愛の押し付けは時に狂気となります。それが妄想による愛ならなおさらです。
It's that warbly voice again.
世ごと狂気で脅され怯える女性がいても警察は事件が起きていないからと見て見ぬふり。多くの女性を恐怖に陥れた輩にアドニスが裁きの鉄槌を下します。
これはストーカー被害を訴えた上での犯行声明だと思われます。
昨日起きた銃殺事件は8月に関連している。 発端となったネットゲームつながりでな。声明の内容から今回も過去の事件と関連性があると考えるのが妥当だ。
So you're saying that it's connected to the stalker incident back in July?
そう思わざるを得ないでしょうね。
The assailant in the July case was in detention. The woman who had been stalked by the victim, Rika Sugawara, was also suspected of being involved with Adonis and X-Day at the time. Is it true that Rika Sugawara was a victim of stalking?
ええ、間違いありません。
Alright, so ads are just about to hit. I'm gonna go ahead and go to BRB so you guys don't miss any of the story. See you in a minute. I totally see what you mean, Soul. It's testing your willpower and resolve to not buy a Switch 2, right? Right? Part of me is curious now. Looking up something. Near complete backwards compatibility. Okay, good. That I can live with. I couldn't remember if it was backwards compatible with the vast majority of games or not. Woohoo! That's awesome! What if she's not related to Adonis, but is actually completely a victim? Wouldn't arresting her be causing her immeasurable mental anguish?
菅原が本当にアドニスと無関係であれば。だが。
Oh. You didn't find any evidence connecting her to Adonis back then, right?
お前の言う通り、菅原が長年ストーカー被害を受けていた事実は変わらない。だからこそ、7月の事件当時、菅原の聴取はあまり深いところまで切り込めなかった。ストーカー被害を未然に防げなかったのは、警察の落ち度が大きいから。ただでさえ X デイ事件を解決に導けず、警察への風当たりが強い時期だったのもある。
She was a victim and not a strong suspect, so the police hadn't felt the need to push her too hard in their interviews. And the assailant was in jail anyway. Even if she was taken for incitement to murder, it'd be a difficult case without evidence.
だが、今回ばかりはそうはいかない。菅原を容疑者から外す理由はない。
Fair, fair. For me, it's not so much Pocopia as much as I want the new Mario Kart. Mario Kart World. Like, I love the idea of Pocopia. I love getting to play on my sister and brother-in-law's Switch 2. That ended the conversation for now, so I was dismissed and told to return to SRCPO. I still don't know what they wanted with me. The perpetrator this time was connected to the X-Day incidents. We were inching closer and closer to the countdown hitting 0. I don't want to see something that awful again. Oh. I don't want to see something that awful again. I want to prevent all future incidents. If I was going to be successful at that, I knew that I had to learn a lot more about the past incidents. December 8 incident has been added to materials. Yeah, I think for me, my biggest problem with Nintendo is the price point. The fact that they don't lower the price of games very often, if at all. That sounds like a fun list of games, Spawn. Immediately after I returned to my desk, Mochida came over with a worried look.
大丈夫だったか？いじめられなかったか？てか、お前何をやらかしたんだ？
I didn't do anything.
怒られたわけじゃないのか？
No, they just wanted to ask me about this morning.
だったらいいんだが。
He's such a worrier. But it made me truly happy to know that there was someone who genuinely cared for me right here. Morioka and Minigishi seem to suspect people within the police force. Even I'm practically a spy since I'm wearing this collar. It did seem like they already had their doubts about me as well. But there were already people among the criminals with prior history and evidence to connect them. The thought gave me goosebumps. One of them is nearby. What if the person who collared me is nearby?
おい、星野。どうした?
Yeah, I guess to me, I look at it and I say, fine, you know, your more popular games and your more popular like Pokemon and things like that are going to start off more expensive. But to me, there is no reason whatsoever for a game that came out like 10 years ago to still be $60. At least have some sales now and then, you know? And now they've upped it to like $70 or $80, and I'm like, that's even... That's fair. I see the pros and the cons for both physical and digital media. Because I see the pro in that with digital, you're able to take it with you without necessarily having to fill up even more space in your case. You're just able to take your Switch with you and bada boom. Vocal Duck, how's it going? But I've also heard some, I think Soul, you're the one who brought this up to me, some of the stuff about the price of the games themselves is my biggest issue. But I'm also not one to necessarily look fully at cover art. Usually, like, most of the time, my games just sit there on my shelf, or they sit there, like, in the physical copy of the game in a case. I don't necessarily always look at the cover art and things like that. talking about AAA games and how most of them are bad nowadays. Indie games for life. Give me an indie at $15 versus a AAA at $80 any day of the week, right? Breath of the Wild is still $60, but $47 on Amazon. Okay. Huh?
元気はないみたいだが、もし上に無理なことを言われたんだったら、俺に相談しろ。抗議してやる。
Looks like you're going to spend an afternoon at the airport next month. Is that where the interview is? Somebody's mowing the grass outside your window and it scared you. Oh no! Oh, the World Cup game the same night you're flying out. Oh no! You don't mind digital games for the convenience, but it's a slippery slope. At the end of the day, I would much rather own my own games. I guess, to me, I think where... Yeah, I would much rather have the full gambit as an option. Like, if I decide I want the digital version for the convenience, fine. But that doesn't mean we have to take away the choice of physical media for those that prefer physical. No, I'm really fine. Mochida's worried face shook me out of my dark thoughts. Once I start doubting people, it'll never end, so I should just do what I can for now. Mochida, I actually have a favor to ask.
なんだ? 何でも言ってくれ.
If you have time today, there's somewhere I'd like you to go with me. The stalker manslaughter incident had happened in July. Okay, so we have these two. So Ogata is unacquainted with Sugawara, but Ogata killed Shimizu. Repeated instances of stalking. Yeah, that's definitely something. The name of the deceased victim was Hiroto Shimizu. He had obsessively been stalking a woman for a while. The woman who had been the target of his stalking was Rika Sugawara. At the time of the incident, Shimizu had planned to commit a murder-suicide in public and rushed Sugawara with an edged weapon. A passerby pushed Sugawara out of the way to protect her and then stabbed Shimizu to death in a scuffle. The intervening passerby arrested at the scene was Tomoki Ogata. Or Tomoki Ogata, there we go. He was currently in detention. You agree, it's already well known that Amazon, for instance, can take away your access to shows or movies if they lose access. Like, even though you bought these things, they can just say, nah, and you just lose the money. Yeah, that's, thank you for phrasing it that way, Vocal Duck, because that was what I was trying to say, and the words kept getting lost, because it was like, I remember reading somewhere or hearing somewhere that the digital copy didn't necessarily mean that you fully owned it. And I was like, but that's the whole point of giving them money. You love when it gets so complex it needs a flowchart? July incident report has been added to materials. On the surface, it appeared to be a simple case, and it wasn't even intentionally classified as an X-Day crime at the time. Even when an Adonis coin was discovered while searching Shimizu's home, the police opinion on the case hadn't changed. However, Adonis then uploaded a video statement referencing the killing in the following month.
正当防衛がない一時でも身柄を拘束される理不尽だと思いませんか彼は一人の女性を救ったヒーローだというのに女性は昔からストーカー被害を訴えていたにもかかわらず警察は取り合わなかった我々アドニスはこの悲しみを見過ごせず被害者に代わり裁きを下しました
So, like, when stories get this complicated, you tend to lose interest. First time this happened for you was Jinro. Describing the story of that show gets nuts, and it's not even that bad. Could be worse, could be Kingdom Hearts. Which I need to get back into. I'm thinking I'm gonna start a new save. And try and play Kingdom Hearts at some point. You give them money for your digital copies, yes, but more often than not, it's closer to renting than actual ownership. And it's so much easier to lose access with digital releases in general. That's fair, that's fair.
X デーへのカウントダウン6そして今月はカウントダウン5近々再び裁きが下ります
Due to this video, the homicide was now treated as part of the string of X-Day crimes. The assailant was arrested. He insisted upon his innocence and that he acted in self-defense, but the case's motive and larger scope was unknown. I'll ask Sakuragawa for more details on the case from back then.
ここが菅原理香の家だ
Thank you.
しかしお前も偉いなストーカー被害者の精神状態を気にして様子を見に行きたいなんて
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like, if it was a case like... If it were a case like Steam, for example, where you have the option to buy the digital copy for a friend... Like, when you buy on Steam, you have the option to say, I'm buying this for myself or buying it for a friend. You've bought the game and you've gifted it to a friend. So it's essentially like going over to the store, buying that friend the physical copy and going, here! They don't necessarily need a code. But yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Soul. That's the job of the local office to begin with.
そうなんだがいや感心するよ
I hadn't lied to Mochida. Sugawara hadn't been able to rely on the police to protect her from her stalker. She had deep psychological wounds. To top it off, she'd been suspected as a murderer and subject to vicious slander by the media. Though the possibility of some of it being true hadn't been ruled out. If Investigations HQ suspects her, they'll come looking for her soon enough. It could just exacerbate the damage that had already been done to her psyche. Whether or not Sugawara was related to X-Day, I was personally worried about her state of mind. Mochida, would you mind waiting here?
なあ分かってる何かあったらすぐに呼べよ
Due to her circumstances, Sugawara might not respond well to men. Mochida stayed in the hallway and I pushed the intercom in front of her door.
どなたですか?
I'm Officer Ichika Hoshino from the local office of Shinjuku Police Station. There was silence.
あなた方に話せることはすべて話しました。
An icy voice came back over the speaker. Please, wait a moment. I'm not here because of the investigation. I just came to make sure you're safe. Have you noticed anything unusual lately?
安全確認今さら私が何を訴えても被害妄想だ自意識過剰だと言って取り合ってくれなかったのはあなた方です。私を疑っているんでしょ。それでここに来たんでしょ。
I was at a loss as to how to respond to that. She appeared to still be deeply mistrustful of the police. The police had been sloppy in their handling of the stalker, but it seemed they had been equally bad in their treatment of the victim. All of us in the police are responsible for the way you feel now. I'm deeply sorry for what happened to you. But we don't want to repeat that same mistake. It's true some suspect you for yesterday's fire. Would you mind speaking to me to clear that up? Again there was a silence. I nervously waited for Sugawara's reply.
あなた一人男はいない
Pokopia is tempting and seems to have the kind of love and dedication put into it that you want for a Pokemon game, but you just can't really justify most of what Nintendo's done with the Switch 2. Fair enough. My partner's here, but he'll wait outside. A short while after I said that, the door quietly opened.
はじめまして菅原理香と申します
In contrast to her fearful tone over the intercom, I was slightly surprised to see her so calm. I had thought that I might not be able to talk to her due to her mistrust and fear of the police, so this was a bit unexpected. I'm Ichika Hoshino from the SRCPO. I reintroduced myself and bowed. We apologize for still being unable to solve the case and for making you feel unsafe. On behalf of the police, I deeply apologize for the pain that was caused to you and our failure to prevent it. That's no excuse for the way you were treated.
ねえそういうのやめて
Right? A character with a name and a face. By video game standards, she must be important. It was an expressionless voice. I looked up.
本当に今更ねもう私の人生はとっくに壊れてしまった壊されたの
In contrast to her words, she smiled thinly. But her eyes were not laughing at all.
でも私はやっと生まれ変われるのこれから新しい人生を生きられるのよだから邪魔しないで
I wonder who gave her this quote-unquote rebirth. Reborn? I didn't understand. But she was acting neither scared nor angry, and the way she spoke with a casual smile told me that she clearly didn't want my help. Looks like I won't get through to her. I think they have both. Because I know the Switch 1 games are playable on the 2. So it at least has, and I've seen physical copies, I think. Or at least I've seen Switch 2 games in stores. I haven't bought any because I don't have a Switch 2. So I don't know if they necessarily have a physical copy of some games and not of others. Wonder why that sounds so familiar, right? Asking for her trust after all this time was probably impossible. When I said nothing, at a loss, Sugawara's smile disappeared and her face grew more serious.
あなた愛する人はいる
Huh? Confused by the non sequitur, I tilted my head. You mean someone I like? She probably meant to ask if I had a love interest. I loved my parents and Kazuki. They were irreplaceable to me. But as for anyone else, I couldn't say that there was. No, not really. My eyes widened at her sudden laughter. She seemed to find that oddly hilarious. After laughing for a while, she sighed and gave me a look.
かわいそうに。まだ愛を知らないのね。私はいるわ。愛する人。最近出会って、それでやっと分かったの。
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Right? Automod needs to not be quite as sensitive.
誰かを殺したいと思うほど人を愛するってことをね。
Sugawara's joyous expression bordered on madness, and it sent a chill down my spine. Sent one down mine, too.
あの人が私を救ってくれたの。ただ泣いて逃げ惑うだけの日々を。
Maybe she does have some connection to Adonis.
それまで私を殺して自分も死のうとした清水の気持ちなんて全然わからなかったけど、今ならわかるわ。あの人と一緒に死ねたら私だって最高に幸せだもの。
You consider that your great joy? Rather than getting to live together? Like, as in live life together, get married, build a home and a family. That's not your great joy? Her words made me flash back to a certain image. The note. I love you so badly I want to kill you. That was the phrase on the burning note. Oh, because by that logic, if we compare that, her greatest joy being that, oh yeah, she totally yandere. If her greatest joy would be that she and the one that she loves, die together at the same time so that they never have to live without each other, that line of reasoning could lead to that note. Sugawara's words matched it.
今では清水に感謝すらしているの。私に本物の愛の形を教えてくれたんだもの。
That is not the true meaning of love, lady. I was speechless and looked away from Sugawara, who was now smiling ecstatically. I didn't understand what she was saying, but I could tell that her experience with the stalker had twisted her mind. She had been broken by having that extreme form of love forced on her, and now she had directed that twisted affection towards someone else. Right? Send them all to therapy! Send them all to therapy! Cinema therapy? Jono person? Can we... Jono from cinema therapy, come. We'd love to have you on the show. What should I say to her? I couldn't come up with anything to say, so I quietly smiled as if to agree with her.
あなたが本物の愛を知っていたら、少しは話ができたかもしれないわね。事件のことを探っても無駄よ。
Oh, she is so Adonis.
すべてが再生
Or at least under the influence of Adonis. Huh? Wait, what's that supposed to... My words were interrupted by the slamming of the door, and she didn't hear them. When we returned to the police station, Mochida came to check on me with a worried look.
菅原理香に会いに行ってからずっと顔色が悪いが、どうした？何かあったのか？
Oh, nothing in particular, really. We just have a crazy person on our hands, but, yeah, nothing in particular, really. I think I'm just a little tired. Right? I had only told him that she didn't trust the police. As for her beloved, I was still unsure if that was directly related to the case. I withheld that out of respect for her privacy.
少し休憩してきていいぞ。30分ぐらい寝てこい。
Ooh, lots of silver ore? Love it! Thank you, sir. I gratefully accepted Mochida's kindness. After parting ways with him, I headed for the forensics department. I was going to talk to Sakuragawa. As I walked, I thought about what Sugawara had said. It was as if she was basically admitting to being an X-Day perpetrator. The person she loves. Tomoki Ogata, the one arrested in July, had ended up saving Sugawara. If this had been deliberate, then it meant that Ogata wasn't simply a bystander. Which means... was Ogata the savior that Sugawara fell in love with? I have to look deeper into the events of July. I quickened my pace.
で、何が聞きたいわけ？私も暇じゃないんだから、早くしてよね。
Despite her sarcastic tone, Sakuragawa rushed over to me as soon as she saw me. She really was a good person. Have you learned anything new about the arson murder this morning? Have you figured out the victim's identity?
遺体の損傷が激しくて、まだ判明してない。
She denied my inquiry bluntly, but I kept pushing. The entire department believes that this event is connected to July based on the video statement, right? In order to connect the cases, I need as much information on the July homicide as possible. Can you fill me in? Sakuragawa looked at me exasperatedly and then leaned in while checking our surroundings.
あんた、捜査本部に目つけられてるよ。
I know. They already called me in once.
マジで？大丈夫なの？
I realized I have to be more careful now. Sakuragawa looked increasingly amazed, but then she suddenly grinned.
まあ、そうでなきゃ私も困るし。
Sorry to ask so suddenly, but could I see the old files?
渡せるのは実況見分調書、証拠品リスト、検視結果ぐらいだけどいい？
Certainly. When I nodded, Sakuragawa brought me a stack of files from a shelf deeper in the room. Oh no, not the abyss!
見るならここで見て。持ち出しは禁止だから。
Thank you. Alright, I have to give this a thorough read. Hopefully I can notice if anything's off. For a while, I engrossed myself in the files.
この事件、ちょっと不自然だよね。
I turned around in surprise at the voice.
こんにちは、いちかちゃん。
Hello. Wait, why are you here?
新宿署に用があって寄ったら、ここに入ってく君が見えたから。追いかけてきちゃった。
Ended up here? He had mentioned that he had something to do here this morning. I'd heard that the SP were secretly coordinating with local jurisdiction. Maybe he was meeting with the security division. While I pondered that, Sakuragawa lightly clapped me on the shoulder.
あんた、SP とも知り合いなの？どういう関係？
Huh? What's that supposed to mean? I wonder if I can reveal that I know Yanagi and his team.
俺と彼女の関係か。ねえ、いちかちゃん。 内緒にしておいた方がいい？
What? Why is he asking me?
恥ずかしいから知られたくないみたい。だから内緒の関係ってことで。ね。
Hey, Okazaki! Don't say it like that!
誤解かな？当たってるよね。
I'm pretty sure it isn't. I couldn't think of any way to accurately describe my relationship in. Yep, send Okazaki to the therapist as well. Send them all! Watching me panic, Sakuragawa grinned.
あんたも隅に置けないっていうか、結局のとこ女だったんだね。
Why wouldn't she be? Sakuragawa, I have many questions about this. Just because somebody doesn't have a significant other does not mean they are any less masculine or feminine. Like I said, we're specifically not like that. This is headed in the wrong direction.
で、資料読まないならしまうけど。
Wait! I grabbed the files as Sakuragawa started to leave with them.
それ、7月の事件の資料だよね。
Yes? Instead of berating me, Okazaki now looked curious.
俺も見ていい？
Eh? As an SP officer, Okazaki, like myself, wouldn't have authority to investigate the case. I looked to Sakuragawa for a response.
私知らない。
She returned to her own work. I think she was enjoying this. I suppose that reaction meant that he also had her permission to see them.
お許しも出たみたいだし、見ようよ。
I don't know. With a tinge of uncertainty, I turned the page. The crime had occurred in Kabukicho. There was a lot of foot traffic at the time. Right? Enjoying this a little too much. The deceased, Shimizu, was aged 29, unemployed. He was suspected of stalking the same woman previously. And Rika Sugawara is aged 25, an office worker in Shinjuku. Shimizu had reportedly been stalking her for a few years. There are police records of her reporting the stalking multiple times.
ストーカー規制法もできて、昔よりは警察も話を聞くようになったけど。
This could have all been prevented if they just did.
そういう事例はたくさんあるよ。通報には優先順位がつけられるから、ある程度は仕方ないんじゃないかな。
The weapon was a 15-centimeter knife. Shimizu owned it. He was carrying it presumably to attack Sugawara.
指紋は被害者の清水と加害者の尾形のもののみか。菅原の指紋はなかったみたいだね。
Wouldn't that be obvious?
可能性として気になっただけ。もう少し調べてみようか。
The passerby and assailant, Tomoki Ogata, is age 34 and an office worker in Shinjuku. He's changed jobs twice in the last 2 years.
5月の警察官拉致殺害事件で容疑者に上がったからだって。
He was taken in on a mistaken arrest by the deceased officer. He was suspected of acting in revenge.
すごい経歴の持ち主だよね。
Huh?
2年前、駅のホームでの喧嘩を仲裁しようとして喧嘩してた片方の男性が線路に転落し、それで嫌疑をかけられて5人逮捕された。
Okay, thank you, Soul.
今年5月にはその5人逮捕した警察官が死亡。復讐のためにやったんじゃないかって疑われて再び容疑者にされた。アリバイはあったけど。それで今年7月、ストーカー犯罪から女性を守ろうとして防衛のために誤って男性を刺殺してしまう。
Quite heroic of him. That connects him to 3 deaths. He's been under suspicion before, which caused him to repeatedly change jobs, yet he jumped in to stop an attacker once again.
ものすごく正義感の強い人なのかな。
But it says that he has no prior association with Shimizu or Sugawara.
いっそ面識あった方が自然だったのに。だって見ず知らずの人のためにここまでのことなかなかできないよ。
Oh, and the light died, like I thought it would. I'll have it charged up for tomorrow. We've got the ring light over here, though. July suspects has been added to materials. Blood on the knife belonged to 2 people, Shimizu and Ogata, so Ogata was injured too.
暴れる清水を抑えようとしてたわけだからね。腕に防御痕もあり、一つだけか。
And see, that's what makes my heart go out to Ogata in a way, because he was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to, like, he probably heard the screams and was like, what's going on? I need to investigate. Goes off to investigate, tries to fight off Shimizu. So yeah. UIRL making silver ingots for a job request on Fae Farm? I love it. Wouldn't there normally be more than that?
こういう状況だと一つは少ないかな。清水はめちゃくちゃにナイフを振り回してたみたいだし。
I wonder how Ogata managed to disarm Shimizu in his enraged state.
それは聞き込み情報に書いてあるよ。
ああ。
それから付着してた血液が2種類ってことは、菅原はナイフで傷つけられなかったんだね。
She did well to avoid it. That means Ogata completely defended her when she was just inches from getting hurt. July murder weapon has been added to materials. According to witness statements,
女性の悲鳴が聞こえて一時あたりは騒然。ナイフを持った男が女性に一緒に死のうと言いながら襲いかかっていた。
then Ogata, a passerby, jumped in and grappled with Shimizu. We've covered this already. Oh, that's a good point! That is a good point, Soul. How many of these incidents were orchestrated so that people would be like, hey, my eyes have been opened to how awful the police are and how awful the world is. I want to play a part in fixing it. And then they don't realize it until it's too late what they signed up for. Ah, it says while they were grappling, Shimizu dropped the knife. Ogata picked it up and used it against Shimizu.
錯乱状態なら凶器を取り落としても不思議はないかな。でもうまくいきすぎてる感じはあるよね。
All accounts agree that a man attacked a woman and the person that stepped in was also attacked and used the knife to stab the initial assailant.
これ見て。周囲の証言でちょっと変わったのがある。
The passerby, Ogata, twisted Shimizu's wrist? What if this is how he got Shimizu to drop the knife?
全部が信憑性のあるものとは限らないけどね。もう一つ、これ。尾形が女性をかばうように割って入った時、何か喋ってたって書かれてる。
There's no record of what he said, though. We won't get anything else out of this. The cause of death was blood loss resulting from a knife wound to the heart.
傷は一箇所のみで心臓を深く一突き、ほぼ即死みたいだね。
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. He didn't even have time to say anything. It probably looked like an instant kill to anyone in the area.
それが引っかかるんだよね。
Huh?
もう少し調べてみようか。
Okay, that's fine. There's an addendum, too. The autopsy also turned up some drugs in the victim's system.
襲われた女性、菅原理香の証言だと、一緒に死のうって襲われたみたいだから、心神喪失の状態に近いね。
When he attacked Ogata, a passerby jumped into the fray. Bystanders witnessed the melee.
何か言ったのかな?
Yeah, I can see the logic there. I can see the connection. Huh? Are you suggesting that Ogata said something to further provoke Shimizu?
もともと正常な状態じゃなかったとはいえ、尾形が間に入ってさらに暴れたみたいだし。まあ、邪魔されたと思い込んだなら当たり前の反応かもしれないけど。
Maybe Ogata being there made things worse when Shimizu was already under the influence and that pushed him over the edge?
だとすると、やっぱり不自然だな。
July autopsy has been added to materials. You're frankly more sympathetic towards Akito than Ogata? Fair enough, fair enough. Just making sure I've covered everything. I think I've covered everything. Oh, there we go, the ground. There we go. It was covered by the instructions.
現場には例のコインもローマ数字もなかったんだよ。
Way to go, Spawn! Yeah, that's why no one thought to connect it to X-Day at first. But
後日被害者の自宅からコインとローマ数字の6が発見された。
some within the police believe that Adonis took advantage of the situation and claimed responsibility for it.
例えば 事件が起こった後にアドニスが急いで被害者宅を特定して警察が来る前にコインと数字を残していったことになるよね。ただの事故を計画性のあるものだと見せかけるためにはそれしかないし。
But that's not very realistic, is it?
アドニスは4月からずっと自分たちの意思で事件を起こしてる。わざわざ計画にない事件を利用する必要はないはずだから。
So that means that they would have had to have planned every part of this out from the very beginning. Right? Kazuki needs his emotional support friend. Why did Akito have to get wrapped up in all of this? I feel like we might have overlooked something. There weren't any lost belongings at the scene.
清水がつけてた腕時計と犯行に使われたナイフくらいかな。
Wait, what's this garbage-looking thing in the photo?
それはただのゴミだね。いちかちゃん、これは現場保存のための写真であって、当時は鑑識が隅まで調べたと思うよ。
You're right. Sorry, I was just spinning my wheels.
焦らない、焦らない。大事なのは間違い探しじゃなくて、当時の情報を整理することだよ。
Okay. There we go. When we finished looking through the files, Okazaki muttered something.
やっぱり変だね。
Yeah. As we'd looked through the files, several problems had arisen. If this was really a next-day killing, then there had to be a clear reason to kill Shimizu. Assuming that was true, then the scenario wasn't an accident and was full of holes. Sugawara was completely unscathed by the attack. The assailant, Ogata, was a quote-unquote passerby. Ogata disarmed Shimizu, and Shimizu was on drugs. There was a nagging feeling that the entire incident had been set up. Okazaki, the part you think is strange is... I think it's the fact that he was on drugs. Because Ogata would not necessarily... like, where the stabbing happens is not necessarily something that can easily be planned. And so, because of that, that makes me think they could more easily, they being Adonis, they could more easily plan on the fact that he was intoxicated. They could more easily plan on that versus Ogata stabbing him in the heart. Because they could easily have planned on, oh, Shimizu is going to be on drugs, this is going to happen, and we'll just have some random passerby. Even if it was Ogata passing by, they could have just as easily counted on the drugs being the thing that took him out versus a knife wound. But yet... Because why else would Ogata have been at 3 different things? Because Ogata is kind of the common thread amongst three 3 killings where he was supposedly protecting. So what if Ogata is kind of their, this guy is our pawn, take him out? Now I'm thinking it's that Ogata stabbed him in the heart. Because there's evidence for both. There's definitely evidence for both. Because it would make sense, but yet it also wouldn't necessarily make sense for somebody to... I don't know, I guess I can't shake the feeling that it would be easier for them to plan on him being intoxicated. Because they could have snuck in, given him the drugs. And then he goes out and starts this whole scene. It's kind of hard to plan an exact location for somebody to be stabbed. Because in the heat of the moment, you're just going with whatever you're going with, you know? I'm gonna go with that he was intoxicated. That Shimizu was intoxicated? Huh? Huh? There was an awkward silence as we looked at each other in surprise. Exactly. Consider logistics, what you can plan for and what you can't. Exactly. It would be a lot easier. Wait, what? I chose poorly? No! Alright, well, I guess we're gonna go with whatever this leads to. Did I get it wrong?
君はどうしてそれが不自然だと思うの?
He's their pawn. It doesn't mean he can't go rogue and do their own thing. Oh, that makes sense. Well, I was surprised that Ogata was barely injured when Shimizu was high and swinging the weapon wildly. Yeah, pretty instant death. It seemed convenient, like it went too smoothly for him. So I was wondering if Shimizu was really under the influence.
なるほどね。いろいろとうまくいきすぎてるところは俺も不自然だと思ったよ。でも自殺じゃないから重要なのは被害者がどういう状況だったかじゃないんだよね。周囲の証言や薬物反応が出てる点からも清水が正常な状態じゃなかったのは確かだし。
Fair enough. So you mean we should be looking for something off about the assailant?
そう。だってこれが計画的な犯行ならこの状況を作り出したのは加害者側だから。
Oh, that makes sense. Okazaki was right. It made more sense to think of Shimizu's altered state as something that was meant to make the assault go more smoothly.
資料の中で俺が不自然だと思ったのは尾形が心臓を一突きした部分だよ。
Ah. The feeling of incongruity I had about the file came to mind as Okazaki reminded me of it.
じゃあまずは加害者の尾形が主張してる正当防衛についてちょっとまとめてみよう。正当防衛っていうのは窮迫している状態で防衛した時に相手を誤って害してしまったことを指すよね。
Yes, the question of whether it was justified or unjustified is key to deciding whether this was murder. Okazaki nodded and continued.
この事件がストーカー被害の女性菅原による殺人なら理解できることが多いんだ。
But how would Sugawara know that he would be out of his right mind?
日頃の恨みが溜まっていただろうし、それじゃなくても恐怖の対象に襲われたら必死に自衛しようとするのが当たり前だしね。予期してない襲撃に対する防衛じゃなくて、予期していたことに対する抵抗で過剰になるのは納得できる。
She wasn't attacked by someone she didn't know, but rather someone she had prior experience with. Someone who'd made death threats against her. She knew the danger she was in, so she might have been mentally ready to kill her attacker. I can understand how that feels.
でも、ストーカー男の清水を殺したのは通りすがりの一般人だったでしょ。しかも、逆上する清水からナイフを奪った上に心臓を一突きしてて目立った外傷はなし。
But Ogata had a defensive wound on his arm from the knife, right? It seems like the self-defense claims focus on that point.
でもその傷、俺から見るとわざと切られたように見えるんだ。
Yeah, that's a valid assessment there, Soul. On purpose?
だって腕に浅い傷が一つだけだよ。状況からしてずいぶん運がいいなって思うね。
Ah, Shimizu was high and wildly flailing the knife around. On top of that, Ogata was also shielding Sugawara. But he got away with only a minor flesh wound. Perhaps Ogata is a composed fighter and used to wielding edged weapons?
そう。心臓を一つ切って簡単に言うけど、実際は結構難しいものなんだ。
And see, that's the point I was making right here. That it's hard to plan exactly where you're going to stab. You kind of have to, like, especially in the moment. I had learned that at the police academy too. It was hard to target the heart, slightly left of center mass and also protected by the rib cage.
ただの通行人にしては、あまりにもやり方がスマートで、ためらいがなさすぎるよね。あ、突発的な戦闘に慣れてる人間がたまたま通りすがったっていう可能性もなくはないけど。
Ogata's just a normal office worker, and it doesn't seem like he's trained in martial arts. In that case, it's actually suspicious that Ogata is totally unacquainted with Shimizu or Sugawara.
相手に明確な殺意を抱いてないなら、反撃にしても躊躇するのが普通だと思う。相当な自信がない限り、自分の身も危険になるわけだしね。
Yeah. Hearing the qualified SP officer's opinion, I emphatically agreed. Looking at the entire scenario, there were just too many things that didn't add up. I see it now. Ogata's history is too suspicious. He was mistakenly arrested 2 years ago. He was a police murder suspect in May, and then he had just happened to kill a man in defense of a woman being attacked on the street.
そうだね。事故じゃなくて計画的な犯行って意味で視点を変えると、尾形の存在が浮いてるんだ。
Yeah.
会いに行ってみる？
え？
尾形智樹は拘置所にいるんだよね。面会はできるんじゃないかな。
Oh, that's awesome, Spawn! It had been right under my nose. If I were to speak to Ogata in person, I'd be able to clear up many of my suspicions. But there was something nagging at me.
その紙片の内容から考えると、やはり菅原理香が怪しいですね。
The investigators suspect Sugawara. If the burn victim this morning turned out to be her associate, it would only be a matter of time before she was brought in for questioning. I want to talk to her before that. If she had a hand in this because she felt trapped by her stalker, I had to put a stop to it. If she had nothing to do with it, then I needed to rule out my suspicions. Either way, I was worried.
俺は尾形に会ってみたいな。
Huh? You want to go too?
ちょっと興味が出てきちゃったか
Okazaki, you wouldn't also happen to be investigating X-Day, would you?
ら。それはないよ。他の事件のことは全く知らないし。ただ7月の事件だけは前からちょっと気になってたんだよね。
Speaking of which...
あとは過剰防衛かどうかだけど、守るためにやったことなのに罪に問われるのは少しかわいそうだな。それに彼がストーカーに襲われてた女性を守ったのも事実でしょ。守るために必要な犠牲もあるよ。
He had said something similar before. It kind of does. Maybe as an SP, he's interested in whether it really was done to protect someone.
君はどうする？一緒に行く？
Does this one affect our trust? It looks like this one affects our trust level. So this is a... we gotta figure out which one is gonna make him trust us more. I feel like going to see Sugawara. She's just gonna probably go crazy again, is my guess. I don't think we'll be able to get a whole lot out of her. I feel like we would get more out of going to see Ogata. Yeah, I guess where my question comes from is this one specifically says trust, and I don't remember that happening with the last one. So like not all of them result necessarily in a trust up thing or a trust down thing. Some of them are simply more a let's do deductive reasoning versus building the relationship. I guess let's go see Ogata. I'm going to see Ogata too. Want to go together? My suspicions of Ogata had only intensified after I reviewed the information with Okazaki. What kind of person was he? Was he connected to Adonis? If I was going to uncover the truth of X-Day, I had to talk to him first. After that, I'll go to Sugawara. I chose wisely! Okazaki plainly smiled in that manner of his that never let on what he was thinking. Alright. I am hungry. And I'm gonna go ahead and... call it here. Let's see, where's my... Hey, how's it going, Mabius? There it is. There we go. I am getting super hungry. I need to get laundry started as well. So, we're gonna go ahead and end it here. Sure, go for it, Zach. That's always been your assumption anyway? So, Mabius, in this one, we are solving a mystery, and we are attempting to, I guess, woo one of them? Ooh, I'll take a look at this person. Let's take a look-see. Good, I'm glad you had a blast. Alright, so mute tab, and then we're looking at Sweets and Cozy. Oh, playing some Palia! Fellow Christian. Ooh, a Navy veteran. Very cool. Exactly. Stopping the terrorist organization is top priority. Wooing is secondary. Exactly. Yeah, let's go check this out. Let's go check her out. Alright. So, if you are subbed, here is your raid message, which I'm going to copy pasta. And if you are not subbed, here is your raid message. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did, and hopefully we will be able to solve more in our next Color X Malice day. And you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Always remember, God loves you, and so do I.